Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Taylor and this is Taylor on TV. So in March, I watched a lot of movies. Some of them were very old that I just never got around to watching. And one of those movies is actually Torn Hearts. Have you heard of it? Maybe you have, maybe you haven't. Either way, I am very late to this movie. So this movie actually came out in 2022, and I remember when I saw the trailer, I was so excited for this movie to come out because obviously it looked like a horror thriller, but a lot of the little details in the trailer pointed at it being about Dolly Parton, or at least that's what I picked up on. So I'm not like a mega Dolly Parton fan. I don't know much about her, but I have seen her Dollywood logo or her iconic D logo. So when I saw the trailer, there were things like this gate and the fact that it's about country music in general. I was kind of thinking, is this movie about Dolly Parton? Is this a Dolly Parton horror? Anyways, I'm getting very far ahead of myself. Let me tell you what this movie is about. Torn Hearts follows a country music duo who seek out the private mansion of their idol and end up in a twisted series of horrors that force them to confront the limits they'd go for their dreams. So this movie is starring Katie Sagal as Harper Dutch, and I think everybody knows Katie Sagal from Married with Children. She's also the voice of Leela on Futurama. It's also starring Abby Quinn as Jordan Wilder and Alexis Leemeyer as Lee Blackhouse. So I'm getting ready to do a full recap and review for this film. So if you want to watch it spoiler free, it is currently streaming on Amazon Prime. Go ahead and check it out first and then come back and we could do a recap review and a discussion at the end. Or if you really don't want to watch the movie and you just want me to tell you what it's about, then stay put. Spoilers ahead for 2022's Torn Hearts. So the movie opens up with this scene from a 90s talk show, and there are two girls being interviewed, and we learn that they are the Dutch sisters. Now, while we can hear the interview going on, the camera is panning around this very old style house. I don't want to say antebellum style because I'm not sure if that's the real style, but it's just an old house. So as the camera is panning around this house, we can hear the interview and we learn that the girls are the best new artists for 1993. Along with the talk show, we can also hear some fighting or some bickering going on somewhere in the house. Suddenly, there is a gunshot and then we see blood running from beneath a door. And that is the opening of Torn Hearts. In the next scene, we meet our main characters, best friends, Lee and Jordan. They are performing at a club and this is their group, Torn Hearts, which is the title of the movie. Now, when they are done performing, their manager is upset with them because they did not perform the song that they promised him they would perform. So he wanted them to perform a ballad of sorts, but the girls decided they needed something a little bit more up-tempo. So the manager's name is actually Richard Rowley Jones, and we learned that he's dating the group member named Lee. Now, Richard Rowley Jones is much older than Lee and a lot less attractive. Based on looks alone and personality and how he's treating the two of them, I don't see her actually wanting to be with him just based on him being a good guy. And that's going to be brought up a little bit later on in the film. So Richard Rowley Jones explains to the girls that he invited this mega country star named Caleb Crowley to watch them perform, which is why he wanted them to perform the ballad instead of what they did. So Caleb Crawford approaches the girls and he actually likes the song that they performed. But Jordan, she's kind of against this whole idea of tour. She doesn't like Caleb Crawford because she says he makes country music for soccer moms. So it's that kind of boring ho-hum country music. And she's trying to take her and Lee in a completely different direction than that. So the two girls have completely separate goals or separate dynamics. Lee kind of wants to become the next Taylor Swift. She wants to be mega famous, selling out stadiums, the glitz and the glam, whereas Jordan wants to just make a living singing and performing country music. And she enjoys the process of writing the music as opposed to the celebrity of it all. And just making a living doing what she loves is good enough for her. So after some discussion, they seal the deal and the girls are set to open for Caleb Crawford on his upcoming tour. Now Lee and Richard Rowley Jones leave the club, but Jordan decides that she wants to stay behind and have a few drinks with Caleb Crawford. Now the manager, Richard Rowley Jones, I'm going to be saying his name a lot because I really like that name. It sounds so country, Richard Rowley Jones. So Richard Raleigh Jones does not want Jordan to spend an evening with Caleb Crawford or even stay at this bar having drinks with him because he knows where that's going to lead. He knows how Jordan gets down. But Jordan insists on having a couple of drinks with Caleb Crawford. Now, while they're having these drinks, this weird scene happens where some fans rush up to their table and end up knocking over their glasses, and Jordan ends up cutting her finger. And they make this huge emphasis on her finger being cut by the glass. So remember that later because I'm not sure where they were trying to go with this. But the next thing you know, Jordan and Caleb Crawford are going back to his house and they do actually end up hooking up, just like Richard Raleigh Jones was afraid they would. So after Jordan and Caleb hook up, Jordan sees a photo of Caleb with Harper Dutch, and she tells him that she wants her and Lee to be like the Dutch sisters, just minus the tragedy. And this is a second inkling that something terrible happened to the Dutch sisters. We can kind of infer that something bad happened from that opening scene, but this is the first time that it's being brought up in the film. So after Jordan admits that she wants her and Lee to be as big as the Dutch sisters or as iconic as the Dutch sisters, Caleb kind of gives Jordan a hint that she should probably be working to be solo, or that maybe her and Lee as a group isn't the best thing for her. He says that she can make it alone as a solo act, and after he says this to her, he admits that there is no tour opportunity for the girls. They actually never had a chance to be the opening act on the tour since it is an all-male tour, and that's how it's gonna stay. So now that Jordan knows that this tour is not happening for them, she tries to secure the bag for her and Lee another way. So Jordan asks Caleb how he met Harper Dutch, and he says that her team reached out to his team and asked for him to do a duet with her. So they worked together, they wrote a song and rehearsed it a few times, and this would actually be the first time that Harper Dutch has performed with anybody after what happened to her sister. But she quickly called it off and said that Caleb Crawford wasn't the right one for the job. So Caleb said that Jordan should not work with Harper Dutch. Something is very wrong with her. The time he spent with her, she seemed kind of off or weird, and Jordan should be looking elsewhere. But Jordan does not take no for an answer, and eventually she convinces Caleb to give her Harper Dutch's home address, which I think is kind of weird. Like, you just gonna pull up on this lady's house without calling first? She don't know who you are, but I guess. Back at home, Jordan tells Lee about Harper Dutch's address, and she says that they can go there and convince Harper Dutch to work with them. Lee wants to run it by their manager and her boyfriend, Richard Raleigh Jones, but Jordan makes the point that Richard Raleigh Jones is not a part of this group and that they can make their own decisions together. And Jordan just wants Lee to trust her for once. So Lee finally agrees, and between the two, she seems like she's the bigger Harper Dutch fan, so much so that she knows what Harper Dutch's favorite pie flavor is. So she decides to bake Harper Dutch a strawberry rhubarb pie in order to bribe her, and the girls decide that they're going to go first thing tomorrow morning before their studio section. So the next morning, the girls decide to go to Harper Dutch's address. The girls are driving on an off-beaten path. It looks like there's nothing out there until they pass a pink mailbox. They turn into the road and they see this giant gate with a D on the front, and the D looks so much like the Dollywood D. They have to have known what they were doing when they made this movie. It seems very, very Dolly Parton, especially with the pink. So the girls are walking up to the gate, and it's driving me absolutely insane that Lee is carrying this pie with no foil, no plastic, no covering, no nothing, just a naked pie exposed to the elements. But the girls use the call box to contact Harper, and they introduce themselves and let her know that they are managed by Richard Raleigh Jones, and Harper Dutch actually knows who that is. And she says that he's a prick. So when I first saw Richard Raleigh Jones, I thought he was kind of like this shithouse manager, or like a manager who really doesn't have any connects. But the fact that Harper Dutch knows him, the girls are actually on the right path, in my opinion. Like, he has some kind of industry connection if Harper Dutch knows exactly who he is. Despite the fact that she doesn't like him, he's still in the industry. So initially, Harper Dutch tells the girls to get off of her property, as she should, because who are y'all to be pulling up on my front porch like this? But the girls explain that they are a duo and they are her biggest fans, and they would love to know some advice from her since she's been in the industry for so long. They even bring up her sister, and they say that they are so sorry for her loss, and this seems to work because she opens the gate for them. So during this scene, I noticed that as Lee is carrying this pie to the front door, her fingers are like touching the edge of the pie. Her hair is even dangling in the pie at some point. Girl, just throw the pie in the garbage. This is disgusting. So the front door of the home is open and the girls just step inside. And when they go inside, Lee is looking around and she's noticing a lot of different things from the Dutch sisters. Like there's this mannequin in the entryway, and even though it looks kind of creepy, Lee is just admiring the outfit on it. And she can even tell like the specific performance when they wore said outfit. Like she is a mega fan. So Harper Dutch finally meets the girls and she's very closed off to them at first. So Lee offers Harper Dutch the strawberry rhubarb pie, claiming that she knows it's her favorite. But actually, it's the sister's favorite pie, not Harper Dutch's, and this is kind of awkward. But lucky for Harper, she don't have to eat this nasty pie that was not covered up. So the first question that Harper asked the girls is, which one of you two are better? Very messy. So the girls look at each other and they say that they are equals and neither one of them is better than the other. So Harper rolls her eyes at this and then offers the girls some liquor. She then asks Jordan what kind of advice do they want to know. But the girls let it slip that they heard that Harper is looking for someone to perform a song with. Now Harper gets upset because she said, you did not say that y'all wanted to record a song. Y'all said y'all wanted advice. Don't come in here asking for no favors. So then the girls have to backtrack a little bit and say that advice is all they came for and advice is enough for them. So Harper pours the girls some liquor and Jordan immediately partakes, but Lee is kind of hesitant, which kind of offends Harper, like, what, you don't drink? But then Jordan tells Harper that Lee needs a chaser. And Harper says, of course, the prissy ones always do. She then brings Lee a soda, and Lee admits that it's not that she's prissy, it's just really harsh on her voice to drink liquor straight. So Harper figures out that Lee is the lead singer of the group. So Jordan has to speak up and go, no, we both sing. But the dynamic of the group is Jordan writes the music, she plays guitar, and she mostly sings harmonies, which was the exact role that Harper Dutch had in her duo with her sister. So Lee does the melodies and does percussion similar to Harper Dutch's sister. So the girls are kind of looking like a direct reflection of the Dutch sisters as far as their group dynamic goes. Lee then mixes her liquor with her pinky finger, and something about this sets Harper Dutch off, almost like it's a trigger for her. Now pause, remember in the beginning I mentioned that Jordan cut her finger when having drinks with Caleb Crawford. So that's one instance of a finger being brought up. And then Lee is now mixing her liquor with a finger. So that's 2 times fingers have been brought up in this film so far. So just remember that. So back to Lee stirring this liquor with her pinky. Something about it intrigues Harper Dutch, so much so that she wants the girls to perform for her. She wants to give them an opportunity to prove that they're any good. So they go up to Harper Dutch's recording studio and they play a song. At first they were going to play an original, but they decided to play one of the Dutch sisters' songs. Now while they're playing, Harper Dutch gives Jordan one of her guitars to play with, but unfortunately she doesn't have a tambourine for Lee to play. So since Jordan has an item of Harper Dutch's, she figured that Lee should have some kind of item from the sister, and she decides to give Lee a ring, again, symbolic of fingers for some reason. So the girls perform one of the Dutch sisters' songs called Highs and Lows, and Harper shuts that down immediately, and she says that she wants to work with them. She gets so excited. She's like, yes, absolutely, this is what I've been looking for. You girls got it. She's so excited that she smashes the guitar that she gave to Jordan. So now Jordan does not have the guitar that she was performing with, but Lee somehow gets to keep the ring that belongs to the sister. So Harper Dutch's whole energy has changed. She's so excited that she found somebody that she wants to work with. They go downstairs and Harper Dutch is making the girls some drinks. And while she's making the drinks, Lee is trying to sneakily text Richard Rowley Jones just to let him know that they won't be coming to the studio section and to let him know that they're actually at Harper Dutch's house. So Harper Dutch notices Lee texting and she gets pissed. She says, do you have something better to be doing right now? And Lee's like, no, I'm just letting my manager know what's going on. So she excuses Lee and says, make the phone call and come back, but don't be texting in my face. So when Lee leaves the kitchen, she's talking to Richard Raleigh Jones on the phone now, and he lets her know that they lost their tour opportunity. The way he explains it makes it sound like it's Jordan's fault because Jordan had just spent the night with Caleb Crawford the night before. But we, the audience, know that they never had that opportunity. So now Lee has it in the back of her mind that Jordan ruined an opportunity for their group. So back in the kitchen with Harper and Jordan, Harper asks Jordan how old she is, and Jordan says 25. That's a hard 25. No, Harper actually says that's a hard 25. Like, girl, you look terrible. So Harper tells Jordan that she's going to have to work twice as hard to keep up with somebody like Lee as far as looks goes. Now, no shade, no tea to these actresses. They're both very pretty, but the actress who plays Lee, she's very pretty. Like, gorgeous. So Harper explains between her and her sister, she was the one in the background writing all the songs, doing all the hard work, while the sister just got to be the face of the group, just sit back and look pretty. So she knows that Jordan is probably going to have to go through something similar with their group. Now, while she's talking to Jordan, this cockroach crawls onto the counter. And Harper stabs it with a knife and she catches Jordan's finger in the process. So again, this is another finger scene. Also, if you have cockroaches bold enough to run up on the counter while you standing there, that's a whole nother problem. So once Lee is done with her call, Harper sits them down and asks how the two of them met. Now it turns out that they met at this open mic cafe. I think it was called the Bluebird Cafe, and it's supposedly a very big deal. So the two were waiting on a chance to go up and perform. Jordan had been doing this a lot longer than Lee. So on this one particular day, Jordan had the last slot to go up and perform. Now, Lee was so upset that she began to cry, and Jordan felt bad for her, so she shared her stage time with this stranger, and the rest is history. Her and Lee became a duo. So Harper is very confused about Jordan allowing a stranger to share her spotlight, especially with something so coveted like this open mic situation. But then on the flip side, Harper goes on to praise Lee, and she says that there's something so special about her, like she has this star quality to her. So then Harper is curious to know if Lee has a boyfriend, and she's very shy about it. She doesn't want to admit it because she's dating their manager, Richard Raleigh Jones. And Harper Dutch has previously said that she does not like Richard Raleigh Jones. So Lee is not wanting to say who her boyfriend is or if she does or doesn't have a boyfriend, but Jordan throws Lee under the bus and tells Harper that she is dating Richard Raleigh Jones. So this actually upsets Harper Dutch to find out that Lee is dating Richard Raleigh Jones because he's an older man, and it actually reminds her of her sister. I don't think I've said the sister's name up until this point. So the sister's name is Hope Dutch. So you have Harper Dutch and you have Hope Dutch. So Harper says that her sister Hope liked to date older men in the industry, kind of hoping to further their career along more. And again, this is another similarity between Lee and Hope. So both of them play percussion, both of them date older men, and both of them were like the prettier one in the group. So there's a lot of similarities between these four women. So Jordan is looking like a reflection of Harper, and Lee is looking like a reflection of Hope. So Harper says that Hope dated older men in the industry in order to further their career along. But as they got older, they became less desirable to men in the industry. And she's kind of alluding to the fact that Hope took her own life because of this. And in this scene, we learn that Hope actually took her own life in front of her sister, Harper Dutch, which is unbelievably tragic. The whole mood is kind of, at this moment. It's very sad. And I think the girls even offer their condolences to Harper Dutch. But to lighten the mood and to lighten the conversation, Harper decides that they need more drinks. Harper and the girls pass the afternoon by drinking and playing games, and then the next thing you know, it's the next morning. So we see Jordan laying in a bed with Dutch sister merch on. And one thing you never want to do is wake up in a different place in different clothes than you remember from the previous day. Well, as Jordan is leaving this bedroom, there's this particular scene that drives me crazy. Okay, I even looked it up on Reddit. So Jordan is leaving her room, and then quickly behind her, we see somebody run back into the room she just left out of, and they close the door. Who is that? Because Jordan keeps walking down the hallway, and she can hear Harper Dutch talking to somebody on the other side of the door. And then through the keyhole, we can see that it's Harper and she's talking to somebody, presumably her sister. And she's saying things like, she's a singer just like you. And she stirs her drink with her pinky just like you. So we know it's not Harper Dutch who just ran in the room behind her. And then next thing you know, Lee walks up on Jordan and we learn that Lee was just asleep downstairs and she just came upstairs to find Jordan. So who just closed that door? I searched on Reddit. There is a thread talking about that scene, but nobody seems to have the answers or nobody seems to have figured it out. And based on how I'm looking at this movie, it seems like they probably had like 2 different endings or multiple ways that this movie could have gone. We never figure out who closed the door, but I feel like in an alternate version or in a different direction that they were going to go, it could have been a specific person, if that makes sense. It just seems like it was something that was meant for a different plot or a different direction that the film did not take. The girls reunite and neither one of them have their phones. Lee seems to be okay with waking up in this house in different clothes and no phone, but Jordan is rightfully freaked out and she's ready to go. Harper comes out of the room and tells the girls that they were sloppy drunk and that they could not manage their liquor, and it's actually kind of rude for them to do that in somebody's house. Girl, as if you weren't the one pouring the drinks. So Harper says she took their phone, their keys, and their clothes to be washed, basically saying that she was taking care of the girls. You know, I don't want you drinking and driving. I don't want you calling anybody while drunk. And your clothes were a little dirty, so I just took care of y'all. Lee accepts this, and Jordan is like, this is very weird. Let's go home. Harper does not want the girls to leave. She actually wants them to go ahead and start recording the song today. But first, she wants the girls to go downstairs and make her breakfast. So Lee agrees that making Harper Dutch breakfast is the least that they could do, considering they got sloppy drunk in her house, and she took care of them by washing their clothes. So the 2 girls decide to go down to the kitchen and begin cooking breakfast. Now, I peeped this on the first time we was in this kitchen. This kitchen is disgusting, and neither one of them are clocking it. Nobody's saying anything, but it looks like a zombie apocalypse kitchen, and then the roach on the counter from yesterday. It just looks nasty. So while they're in the kitchen, Lee sits down and she decides that she's not going to cook. She says that that's going to be Jordan's job and she's not going to lift a pretty little finger. Remember, Harper Dutch told Jordan about this kind of thing. So Jordan says, after we cook this breakfast, we have to leave because we have other things that we need to be doing. And Lee is like, yeah, like what? Because we don't have a tour with Caleb Crawford anymore. So now Lee reveals that she knows that the tour was canceled, and Jordan is trying to explain to her what really happened, but Lee isn't listening. So after they argue for a little bit, Lee says, since we don't have anything going for ourselves, we're going to kiss Harper Dutch's ass and do what we have to do to make a name for ourselves. So Jordan gets some eggs to begin to prepare breakfast, and when she cracks them, the eggs are rotten. Do you know how long you have to keep an egg for it to look like this when you crack it? This is just nasty. So since the kitchen is nasty and all the food seems to be expired, they literally serve up some bullshit for breakfast. It's like moldy bread. It's just disgusting. It's so bad that Harper Dutch throws the plate at them and she says, how do you expect me to record a song with a breakfast like this? And I get it. Because why would you play in her face and serve her some moldy bread like this? But also on the flip side, girl, it's not my fault you didn't have no groceries. So both of them are in the wrong if you ask me. But don't be throwing no plate at me either. And Jordan feels the same way because she heads straight for the front door. She's like, I really don't need this. Somebody throwing plates at me and making me make their breakfast. So Harper Dutch stops Jordan at the door and she apologizes, and she says that when her and her sister were coming up in the industry, they had to deal with a whole lot of junk. And she wanted to kind of give the girls a hard time because she just didn't want to make it easy for them. She wanted them to have to deal with a little bit of pressure and a little bit of stress the same way her and her sister did. So in the next scene, Harper takes the girls down to the basement, and it's decorated with all of this memorabilia, like from their glory days or from the Dutch sister glory days. And she says she wants to give the girls another chance. She says that when her and her sister were growing up, they would fight each other. So now Harper wants Jordan and Lee to prove to her how bad they want this opportunity or who wants it more. And she wants the girls to fight. Girl, So Jordan is like, nah, girl, you still on that stuff, and I'm not trying to play into these little games. I'm not going to do this. And as she's explaining how she's not going to play these games, Lee throws the first punch. And Jordan is looking at her like, girl, how you lost your mind. So Jordan is like, okay, bet. So they start fighting and they are tussling on the ground. Now, this scene kind of pissed me off a little bit because you mean to tell me that Lee is not only the prettier one, according to the movie, the more talented one, according to the movie, and the one who has like this star power quality. Not only does she have all of that, but she also got hands because Lee was beating the mess out of Jordan. Jordan, like, come on, girl, I need you to get a lick in. So Lee is winning this fight, which is so unrealistic to me because when I was a kid, my cousin always taught me that pretty girls don't know how to fight. Or the uglier girl of the two is always going to be the one who fights a little bit dirtier because she don't have nothing to lose. You know, in hindsight, that's not true because Krishan Rock is very pretty and she got hands. Like hands. But yeah, it just made me angry that Lee was getting the best of Jordan. Like, Jordan, you got the short end of the stick on everything. So the fighting ends when there is a buzz at the front door. Now, Lee assumes that it could be Richard Raleigh Jones, considering she called him yesterday to let him know where she was, and he hasn't heard from her today. So Harper Dutch decides to take Lee upstairs, but locks Jordan in the basement. So Jordan actually can't leave the basement because there is a fingerprint lock to get out of the basement. And that kind of makes you wonder what the hell is going on, because why is there a lock on the inside of the basement door? And again, there is another finger type hint, like the fact that the door is locked by fingerprint keypad. So another finger clue. So upstairs, Harper tells Lee to change back into her clothes from yesterday. They're actually hanging up in this closet. But I'm like, didn't you say that you took our clothes to wash them? But now they're just in a closet. So you're lying. So in this moment, Harper confronts Lee and she tells her that she could see right through Lee's little nice girl act and that she knows that Lee genuinely does not care about Jordan the way that Jordan cares about her. Lee is all about the fame, and Harper Dutch can see that. She asked Lee how many times did she have to cry at that open mic before she caught a sucker like Jordan, and Lee does not deny it. So the whole time I've been kind of clocking Lee to be using Richard Raleigh Jones in order to climb to the top, but she's also using her bandmate Jordan to climb to the top as well. Lee says that they're both good alone, but together they can make it. And Harper says that she misses her sister every day and that Lee is going to help her fix the mess that she has made. And we really don't know what she means by this quite yet. So back in the basement with Jordan, she discovers this secret room, and it's kind of like this weird shrine to Hope. It has Hope's clothes, her songbooks, and 2 pink revolvers. And you know what they say about Chekhov's gun when it comes to movies or stories in general. Usually, if you see a gun introduced into a story, then you can expect that that gun is going to be fired at some point or another. So at this point, I'm kind of seeing where, well, actually, I'm not seeing where we're headed. I just know that those guns are going to be very important in this movie at some point. So in addition to the clothes, the gun, and the songwriting book, there are also these jars of body parts. Like, I think there's a jar of eyeballs, and then another jar has fingers. Again, with the fingers. So Jordan actually uses this found finger to put it on the keypad on the door of the basement, and she ends up getting out. So back upstairs, Richard Raleigh Jones comes into the house, and he's basically worried about the girls, saying that they've been missing since yesterday. I mean, they did have a studio session with him that they completely bailed on. Harper Dutch tells him a lie and says that Jordan has left. And Lee just goes along with it. She's not freaked out by this at all. So since Harper is selling the narrative that Jordan has ran off, all 3 of them begin to cut this sort of deal without Jordan. During this little meeting, Harper Dutch ends up sending Lee into the kitchen to get them some more liquor. Now, while Lee is away, Harper Dutch serves Richard Raleigh Jones this nasty pie. Not only is it nasty and uncovered, but at this point, it has been sitting out since yesterday, uncovered. And it's a fruit-based pie. Doesn't a fruit-based pie have to be refrigerated? Anyway, this pie could probably kill Richard Raleigh Jones on its own, but we don't need the pie to do it. Harper Dutch actually ends up killing him herself. So in the kitchen, Jordan confronts Lee, and she says that she heard everything that they were talking about leaving her out of the group or out of the deal. But more importantly, Jordan is telling Lee that she found some body parts in the basement and that something just isn't right with Harper Dutch, and they need to try to get out of here as soon as possible. But again, Lee is brainwashed, or she just wants the fame. She'll do anything for the fame, so she's not hearing any of this. While the girls are arguing in the kitchen, we see Harper Dutch locking the gates or locking the front doors so the girls cannot escape. And now they are officially trapped inside of this house. The next time they see Harper Dutch, she is wearing a completely new set of clothes, and she tells the girls that Richard Raleigh Jones ended up leaving, but he said that it would be best for all three of them to go ahead and start recording. That a hit can't be made without all three of them, and Jordan is kind of confused because she just heard them talk about leaving her out of this recording. So she knows for sure now that this lady is crazy. But Lee, again, being brainwashed or starstruck, she says, yeah, that's exactly what Richie Raleigh Jones said. He never said anything about leaving you out of the group. She's getting really weird at this point. And I probably would have had to fight her again if I was Jordan. Like, girl, snap out of it. So all three of them go upstairs to record a song, and it's one of the last songs that Hope wrote. After the song is recorded, they go into Harper's bedroom. And on the way in, she stops and speaks to a photo of her dead sister. And Jordan actually sees her do this, and she's like, okay, yeah. Confirmation. That's the confirmation that I needed. You're weird. Harper then dresses both of the girls. She gives Lee this nice sparkly dress, but she gives Jordan a pantsuit. I believe she's dressing her up the way that her and her sister would have dressed up back in the day. Harper sits down at her vanity, putting on her lipstick, and then she turns to put the same lipstick on Lee's mouth. I don't care how big of a fan I am. I'm trying to think if I'm a fan of anybody enough for them to put their lipstick on my mouth. I don't know what you got going on, but... So then the girls start arguing, and basically they're having this David Ruffin type situation, like ain't nobody coming to see you, Otis. Lee is telling Jordan that nobody would come see her perform as a solo act. She doesn't have the star power. She doesn't have the looks. And then Jordan is telling Lee, well, you can't write a record. What are you going to sing? Okay, you're pretty and you have a good voice, but where are you getting your songs? I'm the one writing the records. So they are a dynamic duo. Jordan has the pen and Lee has the beautiful face and the star power. And together, they are torn hearts. While the girls are arguing, Harper says that her and her sister were never able to be honest with each other in this way. They can never be honest with one another and tell each other like, well, you suck. Or, you know, I'm the one selling the records. You can't even sing that well. So Harper believes that Hope delivered the girls to her house today so that she can settle the score, or so that she can have some sort of redemption arc. And I'm still wondering, what the heck are you talking about? Like, she's talking about redemption and settling scores, but we still don't know what this is pertaining to. So Harper gets up while the girls are still arguing, and she goes to her closet. Next thing you know, she pulls out a shotgun and she starts blasting. So she is Scooby-Doo chasing these girls around her house with a shotgun. And they're hiding, they're ducking the bullets. At some point, they discover that Richard Raleigh Jones is actually still dead in the living room. Then they discover that the front door is locked and they cannot escape. And while they're still running, ducking, dodging bullets, Lee notices that Harper isn't shooting her on purpose. Harper is missing all of the shots, and at one point, I think she even winks at Lee. So Lee tells Jordan that she doesn't believe that Harper is trying to kill them. She's not sure what she's trying to do, but then Jordan comes up with a plan to go down into the basement. And here comes those revolvers that we saw earlier. Jordan gives Lee one and she keeps one for herself. So they decide to lure Harper down into the basement, specifically in the area where the shrine is for Hope. And she's tripping out so much that she thinks that her sister is alive and speaking to her, almost like some sort of psychosis. So Jordan uses this moment to attack Harper Dutch, and I believe Lee shoots her. She doesn't want to kill her, but she just wants to wound her to get her down. While Harper is down, she confesses that she killed Hope because Hope was trying to leave her. Hope was trying to get her own house, start a solo career, and just move on from the Dutch sister image. And Harper could not stand the thought of that. So she killed her own sister and then kept pieces of her. You didn't want your sister to leave you, but you made her leave you? You didn't want your sister to leave you, but you made her leave this world. You made her leave this earth. I'll never understand it. So, after this shocking revelation or this shocking plot twist, instead of Lee being mortified, she's sympathizing. She done drunk the Kool-Aid. Something's wrong with this girl. And remember in the beginning, I told you she's the bigger fan of the two of them. Harper Dutch can do no wrong. Well, Harper has a way to fix this, or a way that she believes she can fix this. The plan is, this is crazy. Okay. The plan is for Jordan and Harper to kill each other at the same time. And that should atone for everything. It'll like even everything out somehow. So Jordan still has a gun drawn at Harper, and Harper has her shotgun drawn at Jordan. So Harper Dutch is counting down from 3, and on the count of 3, they're supposed to just aim at each other and pull the trigger. Obviously, Jordan doesn't want to die, so she kills Harper Dutch before Harper Dutch can get her. Because what I look like waiting for you to count to 3 to shoot me? Obviously, Jordan is a little bit shell-shocked because you never want to take somebody's life, especially somebody that you were a fan of or idolized for quite some time. So she's like kind of freaking out, and she's very apologetic. And that's when the camera pans down and we see that Jordan is also shot. Lee shot Jordan in order to fulfill Harper Dutch's plan. So Lee actually likes this plan, and she thinks it'll be beneficial for her to go through with said plan. Because now she'll have like a backstory, like, okay, my friend and my idol died on the same day. You know, I'm doing this career for both of them. So Jordan is now lying there defenseless, bleeding out. Harper Dutch is long gone. So Lee wants to be so much like Hope Dutch. And since this is her shrine room, there's actually a book of song lyrics. And she takes that with her on her way out. Now, remember, that was kind of the argument. Sure, Lee can sing, but she doesn't have any songs. Well, now she has a full song book of all of Hope Dutch's songs. So she's pretty much got it made. As Lee is strolling out of the house, Jordan musters up the last bit of her strength to kill Lee before she can leave. So now we have 3 dead bodies on the scene, 3 dead country singers. Yeah. So at the end of this movie, we see Caleb Crawford, and he is actually performing that last recorded song that all 3 of the girls did. And he's claiming that he's best friends with all 3 of them. So now he's using this whole situation to his advantage, saying that he lost 3 friends in one day. He's such a sleazeball. Yeah, his team, his management, all of them, they decided to give that song to him, and it is a hit. And he is now blowing up more than ever off the backs of these 3 women. Well, actually 4 women, because the song is Hope Dutch's song that he's singing. So that is the tragic end of Torn Hearts. So I said I wanted to follow up at the end about the fingers. There were so many different themes about fingers, and I can't figure out, or I can't put my finger on why there were so many close-ups or like finger scenes. Like you had the bar scene, the cockroach scene, the stirring the drink with the pinky, and even the keypad lock, like the finger being one of the things that she kept, and Lee having a ring that belonged to Hope. You could say that's like a finger kind of situation. I don't know. I couldn't figure that out. And I also couldn't figure out who that was running behind Jordan going into that bedroom. Those are 2 things that bothered me. Other than that, I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. It was a fun watch. I didn't know what direction we were headed in. At first, I thought that maybe it was like a split personality disorder. Like she didn't have her sister anymore, and that was her whole identity. And so now she's like operating as both. Especially when I saw somebody run in that room, I thought maybe she was dressing up like her sister and like playing both parts. Then I thought that maybe she was going to take Lee and make Lee into her sister, like dress her up like her sister, dye her hair, do all the things. You know, she gave her ring and like, oh, you remind me so much of my sister. Another thing that I was kind of like, okay, well, maybe Hope Dutch isn't dead and that she's keeping her sister in the house and she's almost like in a vegetative state, or I'm thinking along the lines of like brain transplant or giving my sister a new body. Like, I didn't know where we were headed with this movie, but I suppose the ending that we got was very fun. Not fun, it was very unexpected, and I enjoyed the movie. That's what I mean by fun. But yeah, I just really wanted to talk about this movie. So in the comments, let me know if you guys like this movie or if you've ever seen it before. Um, Give me your thoughts on my finger theory. Or am I missing something? Is there like a finger thing in the country music community that I just don't know about? Let me know in the comments. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.